Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another edition of Book Review. In this edition of Book Review, we will be discussing Covering Islam by Edward Said, an interesting topic discussing Islam, media, and public opinion. I'm joined by an Azhar scholar, Brother Mukhtar Mahdi. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Mukhtar.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Thank you for having me, Brother Malik.
Really, it's my pleasure, and I'm really excited about this book, and I always appreciate when we have you here, especially when you're speaking about media and public opinion, and interesting topics like framing, priming, and these media terms that you have used on previous episodes. So perhaps before we get into all that, let's discuss this book, its author, where you came across this book, and we'll get into the topic, inshallah.
Well, I came across this book when I was studying and researching media and public opinion, and how others view others, how big countries, the major powers, could manipulate the view that we have about other cultures and others. This book is unique because Edward Said, he actually was raised in Palestine, and he did his master's and PhD in Harvard, and then he made the first edition of the book trying to explain how experts of media convince and shape the culture of the Americans and the Western world about the Middle East and Islam. Not only this, but he tried to revive the book after 9/11 and how the huge media effect had on the image in the people's head about Muslims around the world.
And I would also like to see Mr. Edward Said or anyone else do a reverse study as well, what America means to the people in the Middle East as a result of their media as well, because America here is everything to everyone. It's good, it's bad, it's everything. People are obsessed with it. So it's very, very interesting to say the least.
It's a great point to make.
Inshallah, perhaps someone will do that in the future.
I hope so.
Let's get to this topic. Let's speak about priming and framing. What do these two words mean, and how do they relate to our topic, Covering Islam?
Great. Before we go in discussing priming and framing, which actually the main topics when we study public opinion, let's explain to the audience how our brain function. Remember, when we make the analogy of our brain is like a computer, when you have an input and you have an output, and who controls the input will ultimately control the output. The input meaning the education, the school, the church, the mosque, the environment around you, your family, and media. Media being newspaper, magazines, internet, social media, all of this is considered to be media. And this comes into your mind where you have a filter, where you have a software you use to analyze this input in order to come up with the output, being behavior, being emotion, being a decision you make, a feeling you have. So actually, you only have control about this part within your head, the mental software, where you can delete old software. Actually, people were in the past thinking like, if you want to understand more, you have it has to come from within. It's not. It's like when you update your software for a computer, you have to get it from outside. You have to be exposed more in order to update the mental software, to update the way you view the world around you. And when you get control over your head, your mental software, you tend to make better decisions because you analyze the information that you see around you and you choose which information to select.
But brother, if the 1 + 1 = 2, so even if you're a fair-minded person, if you have biased information from the beginning, then it's almost impossible to come to a good conclusion or a correct conclusion.
That's what they teach as a CEO in any company. The most precious thing you might have is information. We are becoming an information society where you can have a lot of information, but precise information would make you have the better and best decisions. That's what makes a difference, the way that you can have the best information and to analyze it well in order to get the best decision possible.
Okay. Media by nature is biased, brother, of course, because I choose, right now we chose what book we will discuss and what topic, as the news chooses what story to report. So this is important. So even if a person is fair-minded, they do their best to find correct information and they are aware of this, how much information enters our brain under the without our awareness, the subconscious brain, and how much of this plays an effect on the decisions that we make?
So there's now 2 points you brought up. The first is agenda setting. The topic that we chose today, the media suggests the news, not reporting the news.
Yes.
So if there are 5 accidents today, major accidents, the media could choose to report a 6th accident of a celebrity getting a divorce. Exactly. The media manipulate people and choose what is right or wrong. In a survey they asked 1,000 men, what is the major concern you have right now? And it was about 80% of people answered the same as the media were reporting news at this time.
Yes.
So it's now becoming, they not only choose what they report, but they play a teacher. They tell you what to think about what they brought to you and how to behave. And the second point, public is eager to behave. When we are confronted with much of information, our brain is a magnet. It takes a lot of information, but our central nervous system is inhibitory. It like a selective information receiving, a filter. I now see this image and I see you and I take good care of your clothing, the good suit you have today. But I am giving attention to some parts of you. So my brain is receiving all this information, inhibiting many of it and getting focused on one of it.
Okay.
And when people confronted subconsciously with many ads in the streets, in the television, they hear it in the radio, they are eager to behave. It's like watching a talk show, and after the talk show you run away and you try to find the first man to tell him everything you have just heard. Or when you watch a movie or an ad and you want to try this thing, you have never tried it and you don't have any interest in it, but because the ad is repeated to you, it becomes part of you, and now you want to try this, you want to elect this man, you want to speak to others about this man, so it influences the way you behave.
We can even say controls, because the last several months here in Cairo, I have seen how really the media effectively creates a tidal wave of momentum against whatever political scapegoat they need at that time, and it really is scary, as we appear to be programmed like robots. How does this now relate to Mr. Edward Said's book here covering Islam in the West? How does he relate this media and public opinion and these topics to Islam in the West?
Actually, he brought a great debate of the Western world and America does not care about the Middle East, but they see it as an oil place, a place where they can take energy. And they have to keep control of this place. And in order to do this, as they are doing now in Cairo, they have to dehumanize these people, to make them look evil. And the way to do this
to justify
is to justify why you are stealing this oil, why you are bombing them. You have to create an image, you have to create an enemy. If you want to unite the Western around something, you have to create an enemy. That enemy is chosen by the West and by America, by experts, says, to be Islam.
And even more specifically, unfortunately, I've seen hate crimes committed against Arabs in the United States because it's specifically, they have been framed and primed to be the bad guy and to be more specifically a terrorist. So they have an Arab Muslims, this is specific. And this person, even if he's a great person and a great community member and a wonderful, loving father or husband or mother and contributes to society, people have in their minds immediately, somewhere in their mind, that this man must be somehow a terrorist or related to terrorist activity. So how have they been framed and primed in this?
That's a great point. And he speaks too much in this book, how experts say, how policymakers in the States trying every time to put a frame on other cultures. it's like making not only the culture hate another culture, but people hate other people. So how could you blaze a mind in order to change another view of another man just like you, having the same dreams like you, having family like you, as you brought up? So it's the word framing in the media is used when we describe an accident. How would you frame this accident in order for people to see it? So a plane crash could be framed good or bad. It's a bad thing, but it could be framed good, it could be framed bad. Muslims could be framed good, could be framed bad. And instead of what the truth is, they don't care. It's about the framing and creating that mental image in your mind that I will bring back in your mental software to make you think and take action according to this image. When I say elephant, in your head you can't help but thinking of an elephant, and you start remembering the first experience you had when it was an elephant if you visited a zoo or something. So that's what the media there made at the same time. He actually studied how many of the shows there, how many in the news where the covering and this framing were taking place, where they brought the same image by many people speaking about the same evil in the Middle East, the same evil about Islam. They are framing Muslims, they are creating the elephant image inside the people's mind and connecting it with an experience of the plane crashing, of the hostage situation in Iran. All these are experiences that people feel, and it's very vivid and strong when it's connected to an emotion. When there is an experience, an image inside your head, I have succeeded in creating a frame about some other people. And not only about Muslims. What do you think Americans and the West think of Vietnamese? And how Americans think of French?
Yes, thank you, brother.
It is the same. They are creating a frame, and they assign a group of information about these people, and they mix it with experience and emotions to make it vivid in your heart.
Yeah, Baka Fiq, brother. And it shows the powerful machine that the media is. I recently remember several years ago, there was a political situation and the Americans were unhappy with the French. So they said, we'll stop eating French fries, we'll call them freedom fries. And then recently when the Americans were going to bomb Syria, the French supported them in that, and they were very pleased with that. Also, brother, I don't want to mention this too specifically, but I also recently had an experience where I was in a difficult situation because simply being American. And really what made me sad about it was I saw in this man, I didn't see his face, I saw a TV screen. What do I mean by that? He had repeated to me the same things that are broadcast on these satellite channels that have convinced people that all Americans are bad people and this sort of thing. So he's really reflecting what he has seen. I had been framed, Americans have been framed in a certain way and primed, and he was acting on that. So it's a very difficult situation. But the power of the media, let's go back to it. What does Edward Said say regarding this topic? What other points?
They say if you want to control another culture and benefit from it, the first thing you need to do is to create an enemy. So you need to make other people, other culture feel to them, to others, as they are inhumane, as they are terrorists, as they are thinking of killing you, thinking of destroying you. They are not your friend, they are your enemy.
Awesome. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back, inshallah. You guys stay tuned for more book review. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Book Review. We're here with Brother Mukhtar Mahdi from the University of Al-Azhar here in sunny Egypt, speaking about a wonderful book covering Islam by Mr. Edward Said. Thank you, Brother Mukhtar. Thank you for waiting and being with me. Interesting book, how people view others. Of course, the media has a huge effect, if not completely controls that, as they control the information that we have available to us. You spoke briefly about how Westerners view Vietnamese and Chinese and French and Arabs and any other ethnic group outside of their own, and how they use this to control their interests, Islam, our topic is Islam, and the book is titled Covering Islam. So is there, perhaps you can speak about how Muslims have been framed in the Western mind, and can it be unframed at this point, or is it something that has a permanent effect on the psyche in the Western world?
That's a great point you brought up. Muslims are, as Mr. Edwards is speaking, as being framed as terrorists, as being framed as the hostage taker, as being framed as the enemies, as being framed as the people that we cannot have peace with.
Yes.
That they are not like us.
Yes.
And once we make that difference in your mind, you start to think, okay, do with them whatever you would like to do. The unframing, I think it's very hard when you you remind me of a story I wrote. It's a winning story in Al-Azhar University. I spoke about your mind like born with a blank slate. It's white, and everybody comes write something on this board, and actually you don't know what's written, but your behavior, your action is taken from this board, which you don't know what is on it. So it's very difficult to understand what is the frames you have about others. But if you take good care and analysis of your actions, you could start to analyze how media affects your actions and behavior. And this is a very important thing leaders do, is they destroy everything they have in their mind and start by reading, start by meeting other people. And you see, when you ask anyone who traveled around the world, they say that when I meet people everywhere, I feel they have the same dreams, they have the same emotions, they are like us. And we have just came from Hajj, and people meet people from all around the world, from different cultures, doing the same thing, worshipping the same God with the same information in their head about the same story. And it actually will be good if we instruct people to take time, not to unframe, because it will be hard. I don't know if it's possible or not, but to take time to understand our actions, take time to analyze the information that's given to us, and have a skeptic view of what the media providing us, because they have also their agenda, and they say it's not what the reporters say, it's what the owner of the channel is saying.
Certainly.
Yeah. So we could help people try to unreveal this misconceptions they have about other culture by reading. And that's a good point. People who have high intellect start to read about the Middle East and to read about Islam. And many of them converted into Islam because they were first heard bad things about Muslim, and it turned to be the other way, because they started to read and understand and to see what the media is telling them as not true.
Of course, and it's so oversimplified. Islam equals terrorist. It can't be real, and you certainly hope the people, you have faith that they will wake up to this. And you mentioned, brother, people accepting Islam. There was a Danish, I believe he was a parliamentarian or a politician that worked with a racist, fascist, anti-rights political group in Holland with Geert Wilders. I believe his name is
Vander.
Yeah, something like this. It's a Dutch name.
Right.
But this man actually accepted Islam.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Actually, he started as a very, very extreme hater of Islam. He produced the movie insulting Prophet Muhammad that produced a rage in the Middle East and every place around the world. But after that, he was attacked. So he has a high intellect. He started to read more about Islam. He discovered that what he provided to people is completely untrue, completely wrong. And he converted into Islam after discovering the light in Islam and the guidance of Islam. And he actually performed Hajj pilgrimage this year. So you see this transformation. The media is making you see something completely different than it is. It's creating the glass in your head and your eyes that you see things with. If you take out this glass, things will be completely different.
Certainly, brother. And as you mentioned, agenda setting.
Right.
I learned certainly, I've learned a lot in this 2 years I've been here at Huda TV. And I simply learned that controlling the topic and the guest and the telephone guest, you essentially are creating the show.
Right.
So you set the agenda of what is important and you prioritize. But how long will people accept to be this blank slate? You had mentioned when you give a speech at Azhar that your mind's like a whiteboard and people just come and write on it. And you have no control over that and you act accordingly. When can we take action and prevent that from happening and recognize that we are being influenced, and how do we stop that?
We could learn from history that the starting point to change yourself is to destroy the rules, is to destroy the stereotyping that you have about others, and start like creating new experience for yourself about others, about other cultures, about other people, to start to examine yourself and take time to understand why you behave this way and why you take this decision instead of that decision. Because you see people seeing the same image, the same accident, but coming up with different views.
Certainly.
That is happening because they have different mental softwares, they have different mental processes that is going on their head. So if they take time to analyze why they do this instead of this, and take time to filter more processing about the information they receive and think critically and being more skeptic of what they see around them, they could move towards a higher position in taking decision. Actually, this was the first thing taught to us by Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, Prophet Ibrahim, when Allah guided him to teach others about Allah, about monotheism. He started worshipping, not worshipping, but he started to make people around him think that he worshipped the sun. And when he looked at the sun and said, "Oh, this could be my God," he's trying to make people think, be skeptic about their religion. And the most difficult thing to do is to change people to religion, the things that they are raised up with. But we see successful people who have changed completely and being converted from the bad to the good. So it's possible.
Thank you, brother. In his book covering Islam, does he offer any future probabilities or hypotheses about the future of Islam and how it is perceived in the West? Does he have a positive, is there a positive resolution, or does he believe that it will continue to be framed in this way unless we see some sort of change?
He actually was interested more not in the solution, but in the analyzation of how others view the Islam. And that book was published in 2003. And when we spoke about discussing this book, we want to revive that meaning. We want to revive the stereotyping people have about Muslims. We want people to start reading about Islam, to start reading about other cultures, and be skeptic about what the media provide them with. And the main thing is to understand that what you see is not the truth, but what you think might be the truth.
Right. These videos are so powerful, and these images that we see on social media, and I know firsthand about the power of editing. In fact, we had a program and it showed George Bush speaking about his competitor Al Gore. And by accident, by accident, it was revealed that they had put a clip, and people at home don't understand. When you watch a video, it happens very fast. They had cut and edited a clip of a bunch of rats. And when he said the name Al Gore, it showed the rats. So the people would not register that they saw it, but it's in their subconscious mind. So I mean, brother, can you speak about that? Because this is amazing.
And when you speak about politicians and the campaigns they do, it actually has two ways. The people inside the campaigns, the media people inside the campaign, are responsible for making people take action, and not only think that you are good or bad, but to take action. So they have two strategies. First is to destroy the opponent, to create a bad frame and stereotype about the other opponent. And the second is to glorify and make good image and stereotyping of the same politicians they work in their campaign. So think of back through every possible debate, you will find media playing the same game, dehumanizing one and making him look bad. The failure, the man who has no history, the man who didn't serve in the army, the man, and go. And the other, he's a man, the good Christian, the good Muslim, the man who is very nationalistic, the man who will provide and serve for the country, the man who he has a good experience for the country, and so on. So the problem is, when you don't consider thinking for yourself, others will think for you.
Thank you, brother. You mentioned the book was written,
By
the
Edward
third,
Said,
the
yeah.
third edition was
The
2003.
third edition was lastly by 2003.
And, which is, of course, after 9/11.
Right.
And 9/11 was such a traumatizing and powerful event, I believe, not because of the amount of people that died,
Right.
or the biggest thing affected it was caused by the image.
Right.
The video of the planes hitting the tower.
The experience they created. They
Yes,
created the
they-
movies,
yes.
they created everything. They tried to revive the situation
Yeah,
every
over
time.
and over.
Over and over. That's called priming.
Priming.
I'm reminding you every time of the terrorist. I am refreshing the mental image. I am reminding you the experience you had at that time.
Every 6 months, if there's nothing to talk about, it's
Bring it
back,
up.
it's like your desktop on your computer.
Exactly.
But brother, I do remember in 2009, I believe, people in the United States began to complain and asking the media and their elected officials, please stop re-showing us this image because it creates such a stress in the people. So which goes to show you how powerful it is.
Right.
After 8 years later, they said, please stop. People were saying, please stop showing us this image because it's having a negative effect on people's mental health.
Right.
All this through images in media. So of course, brother, it's a very interesting topic covering
a very
Islam.
powerful tool that you have to change and shape the future.
Brother, who would you, we only have a couple minutes left. I would like to close the episode really by asking you, who would you recommend this book to? What kind of a audience do you think that would be interested in reading this book, and how important is it to bring a copy of this book?
People who are researching media, people who are researching culture and how others view other cultures, people who are researching why Islam is covered in this image and how people see stereotyping, bad stereotyping about others. This book is a very good source for people who try to understand how the Western world, how the states view another part of the world as a source of oil, not a people, how they could use the media as a tool to reach their destination, as a car to reach the oil there.
Right, right. And how about the people? It's time to wake up and recognize it's time to control the media,
Right.
and put them under control, so to
It
speak.
will be
Make them more
a
responsible.
very, very, very pleasing thing to happen in an ideal world where the media just reports the news and not making a frame of the news. Finally, we would like people to think that it's not what you see, and it's about what you think of what you see.
Yes, yeah, certainly. Barakallahu feek. Thank you for your time.
you.
I look forward to having you on a future episode, inshallah.
Inshallah.
And you guys at home, to definitely pick up that book, Get Online, Covering Islam by Edward Said. It's a must read, inshallah. You guys, I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, I leave you in the care of Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.